Well, baking, knitting, crocheting, hobbies that were once considered for older people, but they're getting more popular among some Gen Zers that are looking for a way to relax without technology. Fox's Meredith Gorman has more.
Hobbies that have been around for a while are considered cool again. Grandma hobbies, or grandmacore, is making waves on social media. Activities traditionally associated with grandmothers now popular with Gen Z. Things such as baking, birdwatching, crafting, crocheting, and knitting, just to name a few.
We've had a huge uptick in younger people wanting to get involved in knitting and crocheting. Crocheting especially, I think, has become more popular with TikTok and social media. It's just become really easy, quick project for people to pick up, and they get to make their own crafts and clothes and build toys. It's really fun for everyone.
In Bryant Park, a group of knitters sat outside on Wednesday working on all different types of projects. Something put together by Knitty City on the Upper West Side for beginners to learn how to knit. Young people are being influenced off of social media platforms to pick up these new hobbies, or can even learn how to do them.
I think TikTok helped propel it just because you can see the results. So it looks like something that anyone can do.
One thing about these hobbies that makes them unique is that they don't require being on your phone, and the lack of screen time has been appealing for some people who are looking for ways to decompress and relax.
Just really developed it, I would say, after the pandemic and living on my own, just having something to do in my free time that's not being on my phone or my other hobbies.
Well, we see them everywhere. Families that put their entire life online for people to watch, and some of them have been able to make some very lucrative careers that way. But how does growing up with a camera constantly in your face affect these kids? Journalist Fortessa Latifi has been looking into this for some time now, and she joins us now on Zoom to share her findings. Fortessa, good morning.
Hi, thank you for having me.
No, thanks for being here. I'm so fascinated by the work that you're doing here. Why did you want to look so deeply into this phenomenon?
You know, I think that I'm really drawn to stories, and I'm sure that you are too, where they're not being told yet. And so when I saw these family vloggers and these influencer kids, and they're all over the place, and people, have millions of subscribers, millions of followers, and I just wondered, what is this like? And, I really do think it's kind of like the new reality TV, but there's even fewer protections than there are in reality TV.
So you actually wrote a book that's coming out early next year. Who did you talk to in order to do this research?
I talked to everyone that you can think of. I talked to influencer kids themselves. I talked to older people in their 20s who were the children of mom bloggers back in the day. I talked to the mom influencers and family bloggers themselves, economists, sociologists, psychologists. I mean, really anyone you can think of. And what were the findings because you got a lot of different perspectives there. What were some of the findings that you got when you talked to those people? I think that the difficulty of growing up in front of a camera really cannot be overstated. And it's very different because people often want to compare influencer kids to child actors. And they're saying, oh, this is just kind of like the new Hollywood. But it's very different because when you're a child actor, you're playing a role, right? Like when I think back to Hilary Duff was famous for being Lizzie McGuire, right? Or Macaulay Culkin was famous for being in Home Alone. They weren't famous for being themselves, but these influencer kids are really famous for being themselves. And sometimes really private, intimate, or moments that we would think would be private and intimate are not private and intimate. So there are, videos with millions of views of potty training routines or breastfeeding, weaning, or first menstrual cycles, or, it's very different. And how does that affect, because you talk to people who live those lives, how does that affect them as they become adults? Yeah, it definitely runs the gamut, and I don't want to paint with a broad brush because there are kids who grew up as influencer kids and said, I love it and I'm going to be a YouTuber, and now I never have to get a 9 to 5 and I don't have to go to college and I'm going to make more money than the average American can really even think of. And then there are the kids that I've talked to who said, this changed my entire life. It changed the way that I interact with my parents. It made my family into a business more than a family. And so I think what we owe to these kids is really listening to their stories. I'm so fascinated by this. So you have your book coming out in March. So what can people expect to learn with that? Oh my gosh, I am just dying for it to get into people's hands because you wouldn't believe the things that people said to me or kind of the things that I uncovered in this reporting. So if you have ever been curious about what it's like to grow up as the child of an influencer or a family vlogger, and you wondered what is life really like behind the camera, this is where you're going to find your answer.
Love that. So it comes out in March, but we can pre-order now. So how do we do that?
Yes, so you can pre-order anywhere. I have posted it on all my social media. So if you find me online, hi Fortessa, or you can just look up, like, follow, subscribe. It's coming out through Gallery Books, and I can't wait for you guys to read it.
I'm so excited to read it myself. Fortessa and I actually went to school together for our master's, so it's interesting to see the different paths that we took, and it's so cool to see the research that you're doing. So thank you so much for the work that you do.
Yeah, so fun. Thanks for having me.
Of course.